Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? It's not a bank holiday, so I'm actually here. Hopefully that's the last time I have to say that for a little while. But yes, I'm here. So yeah, there was no one of these geeky lunch chats without games last Monday because we had yet another bank holiday. But things are as normal can be this week. That's the plan, at least. I feel I've jinxed it just by saying that somehow something's going to go wrong on Wednesday. But no, I'm confident today will be a normal-ish week. So there we go. I will say at the start here, apologise if there's any background noise. I think everything's getting rid of it, but I have to have the window open because it's relatively warm here today on a UK style. What is it, about 20 degrees? So I know in like a European or like a California score, 20 is nothing. But it's kind of just muggy here, you know. I think it needs to rain. I hate saying that, but yeah, there is a humidity in the air, so I need to have the window open. Otherwise, I'm going to die. And you can watch a man slowly melt on stream. But can't hear anything right now. That is fantastic. Thank you, Ben. Very much appreciated. And I hope you like the music. I've added this to my rotation of stream music. So this is another one from Ovani Music. Ovani Sound, I'll get their brand correct, who are a wonderful company who make royalty-free music. Can't hear any music. Okay. Let's bump that up. Can you hear that now? I try to make sure it's getting the balance right on this one. I have it up way high when it's loading, and then I drop it down when I start. But it's trying to get the balance right because I'm just looking at bars, and it's like, yeah, my bar's that, and the music that's probably okay. But let me know if you want me to adjust it. So Ovani Sound make royalty-free music packs. You frequently see them on Humble Bundle. They do big old batches of stuff where you can pay like not a lot, like 30 quid for like £500 worth of royalty-free music, which is brilliant. Which probably means that no one's ever going to pay £500 for it, which honestly they should, because they're great. I find them really useful for streams because, as the name suggests, they're royalty-free, so I don't need to worry about getting copyright strikes and stuff like that. But if I ever get around to actually running some actual plays on stream, I will definitely be making use of them because, yeah, royalty-free music, it's awesome. I've also used bits and pieces in trailers and the like. So I'll chuck the link in this one. This one is particularly cool. They've just released it. And actually, if you do follow the link, you'll see that I actually suggested this. I downloaded a load of Ovani stuff and found kind of most genres I wanted to do. They've got great kind of sci-fi stuff, fantasy stuff. They've got kind of Norse stuff, Japanese stuff, industrial, kind of Blade Runner-y, cyberpunk-y stuff. But one thing I noticed they didn't have was anything in a film noir kind of vibe. So I just popped that in their Discord and was kind of interested. Are you planning on doing a film noir thing? And said, oh, that's a good idea. And then about 6 months later, I got a message saying, yeah, we're doing it. And because you suggested it, we'll give you this one for free. So that's cool. So not a sponsored thing, but no, I will happily plug their products because very, very cool. So yeah, so that's the music on this one. This is their film noir music set. All right. What else has happened? Well, let's start off with as if it's the first thing I talked about. Last Friday, the second episode of Shought Thorts dropped. So let me check the Nightbot command. Nightbot command works, and without typos this time. So if you've not seen it, Shought Thorts is my fortnightly bite-sized interview show where I talk to people in the TTRPG and wider gaming industry and ask them some somewhat silly questions. We have 2 episodes up so far. The first one came out 2 weeks ago, and that was B. Dave Walters, who was an absolute freaking legend. And then on Friday, we had my interview with Erin Angelini, and they are an absolutely fantastic artist who, if you don't follow already, please follow them. They are wonderful. And it was a delightful interview, it really was. It was tough. We recorded for best part of half an hour, and my rule for these is I cut it down to really about 15 minutes. It was certainly no longer than 15 minutes, so like 13 to 15 minutes. It was tough, because there was a lot of really nice stuff in there, really interesting tangents and just expansion on some of their answers. And it's like, I really like this, but I've got a firm rule that it can't be longer than 15 minutes because I want something that you can watch over breakfast or lunch or something without diverting your day too much. Because I know finding time to watch like or even listen to a 45-minute, 60-minute thing is basically impossible. So my strict rule is it's no longer than 15 minutes. But yeah, 2 episodes out there. The link takes you to a playlist where they all pop in. You may even see, if it tells you the information, I think it does. There's 2 episodes available there, and there are 3 more that you can't see. That's because I've actually edited up the next 3 episodes that are ready to go, which is the end of this run. But after a couple of weeks, I'm going to start recording more interviews, which is cool, because the response seems to be good, he says, knocking wood. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it seems that other people are as well, and hopefully it only gets a bigger and better, not better, a bigger audience, not a better audience. My audience is fantastic as it is already. A bigger, a wider audience, that's what we want. Yeah, the audience is fantastic already. Stupid Dave, better audience, my arse. The audience is fantastic. Yeah, so that's out. What else? Well, if I had been on last Monday, I would have talked a bit about the weekend that had just passed. However, bank holidays. Small child in-house Daddy couldn't disappear to do a stream for an hour. So what happened? What happened this weekend just passed was UKGE, UK Games Expo, which I wasn't at, alas. I would have really wanted to. But honestly, I just couldn't justify it. I try to limit my amount of weekends away because I do have a 4-year-old, because it puts a lot of pressure on my wife. And she would say, go do the things, go have fun, but I feel guilty, and that's the thing. But also cost, realistically. UKGE is in Birmingham off the top of my head, and really I can't justify right now travel and hotels and stuff like that. So I decided to give this one a miss, and then immediately got that kind of regret the second I saw people's tweets about it. But it looks fantastic, and I will try and go next year. I really will try and go next year. I just need to try and book all that early so I can keep the costs down as much as possible. Or, alternatively, something I'm actively exploring for Tabletop Scotland is actually getting like an Airbnb with other people who are travelling to get there, so we can collectively keep our costs down. So that would be good. But wind back a week. Back further was MCM and what should have been the Dicebreaker tabletop networking event, which is a whole thing, which is what I'm going to talk about for a big old chunk of this, because I mean the weekend itself, actually I was just there on the Friday, was fantastic, but there is a whole story related to this. So for those who don't know, let me tell you a tale. In the olden days, when the Earth was new, not quite that far back, but some months ago, Dicebreaker put out a thing saying, we're doing a networking event. I understand they'd done it the year before as well. Maybe even before that, I'm not sure. But I think maybe this was just going to be the second year. Which would be a conference, a networking conference, as you would see in any kind of other industry, for similar, like-minded creators to network, to listen to talks, etc., etc. Please put your name down if you're interested. I did, and then a few months later, I got a message saying, yeah, brilliant, you're invited, you can come, and actually you get a free MCM Friday Pass for it, so you can actually nip down and see MCM as well. So yeah, that's fantastic. Then, the event was meant to be the Friday, and I want to say Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday, yeah, the Wednesday, so 48 hours before, we'll get an email that says the event is cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances, I think were the words. Now, we don't know exactly what happened. Reading between the lines as far as possible without going off on wild tangents and speculation, we know that Dicebreaker was acquired by IGN relatively recently. So the presumptive theory is that for whatever reason, as part of that acquisition, the event got shut down. Now, we don't know why, and we're encouraged not to speculate on that. There are many theories out there, and I'm going to be good and I'm not going to speculate on this one. But the point is, with 48 hours notice, the event got cancelled, which sucked on 2 counts. First count is that an event I think everyone was very excited about got cancelled. Because you don't see a lot of, everyone does networking at conventions, but to actually have a space dedicated to it is not something I've seen before. So I was really excited about this, business cards at the ready. Secondly, there were a lot of people who don't live close to London. I mean, I live an hour and a bit from London. I live in Essex. So it wasn't too bad for me to get in. But a lot of people were coming from further in the UK or actually abroad. There were a lot of people coming from Europe who, of course, had booked flights and expensive travel and hotels, a lot of which was not cancelable at this stage. Or it probably would be cancelable, but they wouldn't have got their money back. So that really sucked. Now, this is nothing against the Dicebreaker team. I cannot envisage a world where the Dicebreaker team themselves chose to cancel this event. I can only assume that for whatever reasons, because of the acquisition, they were put in a position where there was no choice. So, huge credit to Dicebreaker, who have been fantastic throughout all of this. What we did find out in the email is that we still got our Friday MCM passes. So I was originally thinking, well, I was planning to go anyway, and actually taken the day off of my day job, so taking the day of annual leave. I thought, well, it would be nice to go to MCM. I probably wouldn't have gone otherwise, because I've said this before. MCM is a bit much, generally. I prefer slightly more low-key conventions. So I probably wouldn't have gone otherwise, but, I had a ticket, so I was going to go anyway. And then there was a bit of talk about, I certainly tweeted MCM and said, look, whatever room was available, presumably it's already paid for. Is there any chance we'd still have the room just for a bit of networking? And we didn't hear anything on that one, because presumably they were bombarded with messages. And they were just days before MCM, which is a huge convention. So they would have been very, very busy. But there was a bit of talk about, well, could we put on an impromptu thing? Is there some way of doing an impromptu thing, whatever it might be? And actually, someone did, which is very, very cool. So the team at SoulMuppet Publishing, who I will admit I was not terribly aware of beforehand. I think I'd seen the name a couple of times, but I didn't really know anything about them. We're working with the UK tabletop community kind of collective. And they put on an event with 48 hours notice. And I'll talk a little about how that went. And the short versions went very, very well. But I'll get onto that in just a minute. But they put on an event. It wasn't the whole day, it was just the afternoon. And it was kind of upstairs in a pub rather than upstairs in the Excel Centre. But, putting that together at that kind of notice was incredible. And I would say it was a huge success. But I'll get onto the specifics of that. I'm going to try and go chronologically through that Friday, because there's a lot. So now it's like, well, okay, I've now got a plan for the day. So I've got really itchy nose this morning. This afternoon, rather. So Friday morning I was going to go and do MCM, and did. And then hopped across town with some other people who do exactly the same thing to the SoulMuppet networking event. So let's go chronologically. MCM. So I've said before I found MCM a bit much. I do prefer places like Tabletop Scotland or Dragon Meet, which are more about the indie creators and less about the big commercial flash. And also, in terms of the amount of people, it's a lot. I will say going on a Friday is not as ridiculous as going on a Saturday in terms of number of people and in terms of temperature. Just the sheer number of bodies in the Excel Centre, if you go on a Saturday, it makes the temperature very, very uncomfortable. So I went on Friday morning. The quirk was the start of this. We were told, right, go to the west entrance, like the industry entrance, give your name, show an email, and they'll give you a pass and let you in. Sure enough, I did that, and they said your name's not on the list. So I pulled out the email and said, it says go to this entrance. I said, oh yeah, talk to that guy. And there was a guy just off of the main desk who I went up to and said hi. It said to go to the industry entrance, flashed in the email, he had a list, and he didn't even check my name off, he just handed me a pass, which was an industry pass. Now it turns out, everyone else I spoke to later on in the day just got Friday priority passes, so I think I somehow passed a perception/deception check and got myself an industry pass that would have presumably been valid for the entire weekend. gone well. But there we go. A quirk at the start of the day. So the main thing I do at MCM is I tend to go around artisanally, and mainly with the goal of getting business cards of people who I may be interested in working with for future Little But Fierce projects. Essentially, I'm looking for people who clearly do a very good, not necessarily cartoony style, but a kind of kid-friendly style, who I may want to work with later on. And also to purchase stuff and meet people and all of that. But that's the first thing I tend to do. And I've actually been really organised since last MCM. I actually bought myself a little business card binder thing. So I store all my business cards in here, and I got a few of them, I'm not going to lie. So I have plenty of people to reach out to for future Little But Fierce stuff, which is very exciting. And actually I would say that the amount of indie creators there, I think, was more than I'd seen in the previous MCM, so that was very, very enjoyable. I didn't go too bananas on buying stuff, which is probably a good thing. I did get some cool bits and pieces that I will quickly run through. I mean, the main one I got was, as you can see, this is very bland, which is kind of fine for having a blank background of stuff, but it's not terribly exciting visually. So I thought, I've been thinking for a while to get myself some wall art. And I have some bits and pieces already. I have like a signed kit bus, keyleth piece of artwork. I've got some Tess Fowler pieces, which are very cool. But I mean to put them up. But what I don't want is to put like a tiny thing here, and then it looks like, wow, he's put up 2 tiny pictures on a gigantic wall. That looks actually somehow worse than it being a big blank wall. So I thought, I need to get myself some cool artwork. There were a couple of ones I looked at. But the ones I actually went with, there was a stand for, I don't know if it's just a bloke who is this company or as many people, but the brand was Geeky Ninja. And what I got was a couple of very cool Lord of the Rings style ones. So let's sort the cables out here. So I've got this, let's avoid the ring light reflection too much. So this is Visit the Shire, which is very cool. And similarly, I've got kind of a sister one for it, which is Visit Mordor, which are very nice. I like those. So those are going to go up next to each other on the wall. I just need it takes some time to actually put them up properly, because the last thing I want is them falling off the wall and breaking. But no, really pleased with that. I didn't have to carry it down for the rest of the day, which was less convenient but totally worth it. So those were very, very cool. I got a few samples of bits and pieces. I really didn't go that bananas because I didn't have a huge amount of time. It officially opened at 10, and realistically we were looking to be leaving about kind of 12:30ish, so I didn't get that long at MCM. But it was a free ticket, so what are you going to do? I got a couple of free samples. I got the sample of Crooked Smiles, which is the kind of, I think it's queer Victorian novel that is being written by Blady Cakes and illustrated by Kit Bus. So that's very cool. I was also very generously given by my friend Rich of Hatchlings Games. I was given a physical copy of the Cryptic Creeks Quick Start Guide, which he had with him all day. And he said, "Do you want to look at it?" I said, "Yeah." I haven't had a chance to look at the digital copy yet. It's in my itch library, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And he just said, "Oh yeah, hang on to it." You know, Rich is way too generous, by the way. I mean, look at this. This is not a small thing. This is like the size of a full frickin' rulebook, which he just gave out. So absolute legend that he is. I'm very much looking forward to reading it. I got some stickers and stuff like that. Honestly, I didn't get that much stuff because I didn't have enough time. What I would love, and I've mentioned this before, most conventions have an app, which is kind of useful. But what I would love is an ability to flag vendors on that app. So you can go to a store and go, "Oh, I like that." But yeah, I think most people, if they're vaguely sensible, a lot of people aren't. Yeah, they do a first pass of the room and then go back and go, "Well, actually, because my wallet is not infinite, I can only go to certain places again and buy certain things." So what I would love to be able to do is flag stands on the app, so I can go, I need to go back there, and there. So you do a first pass and then go back again. That would be nice. I mean, otherwise I kind of just have to do it manually in my head, which is not like the world's worst problem. But, given the fact that places like MCM are pretty chaotic, it would be nice. It would be nice. So I met up with a few awesome folks. We actually all met up for lunch. Who did I see there? Ellie Jordan, Rich from Hatchins Games, Miles, who's Rune Fable, and various others. And then a load of us went over across town to the SoulMuppet event. I don't remember the name of the pub we were in, but not too far from Liverpool Street Station. So the original event was meant to be networking opportunities, and I think it was 4 or 5 talks. Now I will say, the talks themselves, the talks themselves on the original agenda, I was relatively interested in, but the main reason I was going was for the networking opportunity. So because this was a smaller scale event, arranged with 48 hours notice, and I have to stress that enough, it was downsized quite a bit. So there were only 2 talks. The first talk was by Zach, who I forget their technical title, but I believe they are essentially the person who runs SoulMuppet. And they did a talk on generally about their kind of production life cycle, with a particular focus on things like printing and the like, and things to watch out for along the way. You've got from inception of an idea to actually pushing a product out to whether it's a little. They dabbled in Kickstarter a little bit, just because that's a huge topic, but also about talking to other markets and trying to get your stuff into bookstores and the like. So that was really interesting. I made some notes along the way, things I need to be aware of and things I need to think about. Especially as in the next year, I'm really hoping to actually have some physical products. I really want to get the ball rolling on the Little But Fierce crowdfunding one. That will give us a physical freaking book. And once I've got a physical book, then I can start actually doing stalls, which would be great. Go to conventions as a vendor and start selling stuff. Because while I'm digital only, it's really difficult to do that. The second talk was an interesting one. Not that the first one wasn't interesting, but the second one I think is something that I think a lot of people wouldn't have thought of, which was, it was a talk by Anna Poulter-Jones, who works for the law firm Sheridan's. And that was a talk about protecting your IP, which I thought was a really interesting discussion. I think everyone else was kind of wrapped on this one. Talking about, a bit about generally about how to protect your IP, talking about public domain stuff, dabbled a little bit in the whole OGL saga and what came out of that in terms of things like the Orc license. So that was a really interesting talk. Bits of it I knew already, but I think it's always worth to hear that, because I think we assume a lot, either correctly or incorrectly, because most of us aren't lawyers. So that was really interesting. I very much enjoyed that. And there was a huge opportunity for network, for us to just chat, wander the room, exchange business cards, talk about what we're doing, etc, etc. Miles, who is Rune Fable, had a very clever idea. So Miles makes dice. Rune Fable is a dice company. Makes very, very, very pretty dice. And very wisely, he had a sample table. So as most people just had business cards and chatter, some people had either quick start guides or physical merch, which is really good for opening a conversation. So yes, the sooner I can get a physical thing, the better. Need to do that. But I think it was a really good afternoon. It was very well organised. The tone, the vibe was wonderful. Very much enjoyed that. And huge kudos to the SoulMuppet team for the work they did there, because that putting that together in that sort of time was just incredible. Really was. What else about that event? Well, the one thing I didn't talk about, it's been meaning to, for those who haven't heard about it, because they had representation in the flyer there is a union. This is IWGB Game Workers Union, which I need to join. I'm very much a union man, Miles Edward O'Brien. So we have a union now, which I think is absolutely vital. I mean, I came from a teaching background where unions are absolutely vital, especially without getting too political, but in 14 years of Tory government, my God, you need unions. So I do need to join. It's on my to-do list, hence the fact the flyer is on my desk. I need to sort that out, because generally, again, with all the OGL saga and all bits and pieces and rise of generative AI, protecting ourselves is incredibly important, especially collectively. But also another reason is they are going to be looking at things like standardized contracts, which I think is very important. I mean, I will admit it's something that I need to do more of. people I've worked with in the past for like Little But Fierce projects, we exchange emails and we kind of explain mutual terms there. So, and then I archive them all, which is good because we've got stuff in writing. But really, I need to be using proper contracts. And then when I get to the Kickstarter or crowdfunding, depending on what I actually use, and I bring in more and more external people, I need to be using proper contracts just to protect myself and protect them. So all of that. So that's something they're definitely exploring, is standardized independent contracts. You know, this is a standardized contract for example, getting an artist. You know, and it can include, I imagine, would include various optional clauses like, is this a bulk payment? What does that allow you to do with it? You know, is this a royalty thing? Is this a half and half? And that would be wonderful, because I can't afford a lawyer. You know, I really can't. And what I don't want to do is wing a contract by myself, because essentially, if I'm just working with people who I don't think are, you know, I'm not trying to screw them over, they're not going to try and screw me over, you know, generates a very friendly relationship, that's great, and I'll probably never need to go to the terms of the contract. But in the event it ever turns nasty for whatever reason, and that's not saying it's malicious, you know, it could just be a misconception. I mean, let's go with a really simple misconception. I mean, maybe, I know for a fact, let me use an example here. The artwork for Blunderlings, I commissioned from Sleepiest Designs. The terms of that commission mean that I can use it essentially for producing the product, the Blunderlings expansion, but what I can't do is use that artwork on merchandise. Perfectly reasonable clause, was happy with it, not a problem. If I say forgot this at some stage and then put it on merchandise, Jenny would understandably want to go, this is not in the agreement that we had here. And, you know, our agreement is, you know, it's not a formal, it's not a formal written contract, but, you know, she's made her terms very clear. I've agreed to them. We then had a PayPal transaction based on that, which I believe the terms are mentioned in the PayPal contract, in the PayPal transaction. So that probably is a contract, to be honest. But in the event I was a bell end and forgot about that, I want to be in a position where Jenny could hold me to account. So it doesn't have to be malicious, but it is important that we, you know, standardize this stuff and talk about it. You know, and especially because, you know, Little But Fierce is my flagship product. And should it become successful, it's moderately successful right now, but let's say it became, you know, really quite successful. Let's say I was managing to get it into bookshops. You know, I could get physical copies at Gen Con, even though I'm not at Gen Con, for example. You know, let's say I went from minorly successful to mediumly successful, or or let's say I became gigantic. That's not going to happen, but let's say it did. The people who signed contracts with me at the start would probably want to look very carefully at, well, what were the terms of the contract? You know, because I do have some royalty shares. You know, if I became incredibly successful and I've got royalty shares on there, and then let's say the power went to my head and I said, well, I'm renegotiating all these, they would rightly want to hold me to account. So it's really important we have standardized contracts. I think unions are the way to do it. And they've already said they're interested in it. So I need to sign up, I need to do it. Because very, very important. What else happened on that Friday? Well, we originally had a plan for a load of us were going to do dinner afterwards, and that sort of happened, but it got derailed a bit. We booked somewhere near MCM, but the Dicebreaker, the SoulMuppet event was further away, so we couldn't go to that place, so we kind of did a more spontaneous thing. So I ended up having dinner at a pizza place with Rich and Miles, and we just had a really good chat. And I'm increasingly excited about crowdfunding Little But Fierce and working with Hatchlings Games in particular to make that as successful as possible. I'm not going to go too much into it, but the opportunities there are very, very exciting. So yeah, watch this space on that one. Really, really pleasant day. Got an awful lot out of it. So yeah, and more of it. I want to see more of that. So I'm hoping, and I know that SoulMuppet said they're looking to do a networking event at Dragon Meet, which would be very cool. I would really like to see one at Tabletop Scotland, and I'd like to see it be more of a thing. And what I want to see is two different types. I mean, I want the networking stuff, but what I want to see is two different types of talk there. Now, both of the talks we had there were what I would say were factual talks. The speaker was giving us information, an opportunity for us to ask questions, but essentially it was about an information exchange and opening our eyes to certain things, which is really useful. And I definitely want to see more of that. What I would also like to see, I would like to see some ones that are a bit more like TED Talks, which are maybe less about sharing factual information and more inspirational. This is where we think we might be going in this industry, or have you ever thought about exploring this? It's too often, especially because an awful lot of people start tabletop role-playing games with a Dungeons and Dragons or something similar, and then they never really expand their mindset from Dungeons and Dragons. So talks where you go, right, do you think this is what this standard model is what a tabletop RPG has to be? Let's look at some stuff that break every single rule and every single misconception you may have. Let's chuck them all out the window and look at different options, because that will inspire people to go, oh wow, I can do something that's got this. I was talking a little bit during that dinner. I've got to get this right, the name of it. I was talking with Miles about opportunities in terms of dice and stuff like that. And I talked about a game I've not played, but I'm aware of, which I think is very interesting. There is a Viking game called Fate of the Norns, which I think is very interesting, because rather than using dice or tarot or anything like that, it embraces the Viking Norse mythology thing and does it with runestones. So again, I've not played it. My understanding is essentially your character attributes are based on runes. So the runes themselves have abilities. But also, let's say you've got 5 in strength. I'm making up the stats. Let's say you've got 5 in strength and 3 in agility. You'd stick 5 runes of one colour into the bag, 3 runes of the other colour into the other bag, into the same bag. And then when you've got to do something, you draw from the bag to get a result, which is a nice little mechanism. Again, it blends the mechanics and the theme very nicely. And I like the fact that it's also your health. So if you get hurt, you take a rune out of the bag and essentially discard it. So as you get weaker, your abilities get worse. And that sort of, again, breaking the mold of these assumptions of, we need to roll dice and we need to either roll over something or under something, or it's about a number of successes. All of that is floating around in the same sort of mechanic space. Whereas it's wonderful to have someone go, no. We're doing something completely different. And I think those kind of inspirational, kind of TED-style talks, I think could be very interesting. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more networking and more talks, not just panels, but talks at conventions. I think that would be very, very interesting. I want to see more of that. I really do want to see more of that. Which brings me to kind of the end of that huge section about talking about that weekend and the MCM and the SoulMuppet thing and the Dicebreaker event that was not. I'll wrap this up in just a second. There was one other little thing I wanted to talk about that I did mean to talk about last Monday, but because I didn't do it, which is board games. Yay, board games behind me. I talked a little bit about how I picked up a copy of Calico, which is the board game that was then adapted into Quilts and Cats of Calico, which I played over 2 streams a few months ago. I very much enjoyed that, and I finally played my actual version of it the other week, and it was just as much fun as I expected. What I also managed to pick up was a copy of Wingspan, which is harder to get hold of because, one, I think because they produced Wormspan, it's harder to get the original Wingspan now, and also it's bloody expensive. The places you can buy it, you've got to pay like 60 quid for it, which is a lot. But I managed to pick up a copy from there's a Facebook group, which is the UK, I forget the name, something like UK Tabletop Game Exchange, where essentially you can buy games, second-hand games off each other, and it's wonderful, it really is. I got a copy from that. I've not played it yet, I am looking forward to playing it, but I did want to show off a little bit of cool stuff, because it's got a lot of cards, which is great. It's got physical eggs, not real eggs, but egg tokens that you put on your birds in the nests, which is very nice. I like that. And one thing it does come with which I like, I really do like, is it comes with this. So this is a dice tower that looks like a kind of bird feeder, which is very nice. But the problem with it, well, there's two problems with it. One, it's made of cardboard, which means that wear and tear is likely to be a problem. Secondly, it is difficult to get into the box. You essentially either have to take it apart and take the bottom bit off of the tray, or you have to try and put it in like a Tetris piece and hope for the best you can fit pieces around it. And the box isn't quite big enough to accommodate that. So what I started doing was taking the base off and putting it in the box, but I thought this is going to get broken very, very quickly. So essentially I would do that and, I don't know, store it vaguely like that in the box, which isn't great already. So I thought, the internet's a wonderful place. There's got to be someone who has made some other version of it, you know, because it is a popular game. It is a very popular game. The fact that we're able to do Wormspan and stuff based on, in fact, people talk about Wingspan a lot, means it's a very popular game. So I thought someone's got to have made an upgraded version, whether officially or unofficially. Turns out I'm right. So I got from Wayland Games, they produce, I think it's not quite 3D printed, I'm not sure what it's made of, but I'll show you it. So it's this. So this joyous little thing is, you can do it, it smells lovely. I don't know what it's made of, but it is pretty solid. It's some sort of printed plastic, I think, with printed texture. And actually, if you compare the two, I've not put the base back on it, the structure is generally the same. If you have a look, it's got you can see the dice tower angles at the side. So it's based on the same sort of template, and they've tried to copy it as closely as possible, or replicate it, not copy it. But it's wonderful. It went together really easily. It's got a hinge in it, so it stores like that. And what's quite nice, the only thing I have to faff with is it's got a magnet. Let me try and show you this. So it's got a magnet there, which matches a magnet there, so that when I put it up, it locks into place. I did have to super glue that, which caused me more than a little bit of stress. Because essentially, the second it said just slot the magnets in, and then the second I pulled it up and pulled it down, it yanked the magnet all the way through. And then I just had 2 magnets stuck in one bit. And they're tiny freaking magnets. It came with 3, so it came with the spare, and I promptly lost one of them, which was a little bit stressful. So I had to super glue them in, and I just do this whole thing of, right, I'm like 99% sure I've got these the right way around before I glue them. Because if obviously I glued them the wrong way around, then it wouldn't work. Now technically I could take this back piece out and flip it around, but it wouldn't work quite as well if I did that. But it was this whole, well, I'm 99% sure I've got it right. Let me just check it again. Okay, that's right, put it down. Yeah, that's right. Let me check it again. And then I dropped them. And it's, okay, right, let's check it again. I'm 100% sure they're right now. Glue them, wait, don't test them yet, wait for the super glue to harden, and then test it. And unfortunately, there you go, it works. Lovely piece of kit. And I love the fact that with modern technology, this is something they can mass produce. It comes as a single sheet, you pop them out, you slot them together, you super glue the magnets, and you've got a very cool Wingspan bird feeder dice tower. Honestly, I might use it as a dice tower for other things, because that is a lovely, lovely thing. It really is. So I'm looking forward to, at an appropriate time, playing that with my wife. I need to condense my rules explanation. Wingspan's great, but the rules are a little long, and my wife has ADHD, so I need to condense my explanation down into what we need to play to get hooked. But very much looking forward to it. So that's me. That is me. What is going on? Well, Wednesday I have, if there was not an act of God of some sort, we have our usual lunch chat with games on Wednesday, this same time slot. Not sure what I'll be playing yet, I'll be honest. I'm thinking a puzzle game of some sort. I feel like I would like to play a puzzle game, and I've got a few in my Steam already. Actually, my niece recommended a game called Cocoon, which I need to check out at some point. She actually recommended I go in cold, so I could do that. I did also pick up a game called Paper Trail that a few people have been playing, which I might have a look at. That looks very nice. That is a 2D puzzle. You're walking around, and the notion is you've actually got to fold the pages over to make it work, which is I've seen a couple of people play it, and I would like to give it a go. So we might play them. We'll see. We shall see. So that's Wednesday. I would like to. I've not done a gaming stream for a while. I got halfway through Story of Thought, sorry, Beyond Oasis, and I would like to finish that stuff, but rather than leaving that half done. So I will probably do that at some point. No Shought Thorts this week. It is fortnightly, so that will be coming out. The next episode will be coming out next Friday, and I will announce shortly who the guest is going to be for that. Actually, if you're watching this, you get to know. That's my interview with Taylor Navarro. Taylor is awesome. She's absolutely kicking ass in the industry. Is way younger than me. She's not even 30 yet, and she is doing a fantastic job. But you know, all credit to her. She's doing a marvelous job, and it was another very, very enjoyable chat. So that's next Friday, not this Friday. Anything else? I don't think there's anything else. The normal sort of business. If you have enjoyed this, please follow me here. Also, if you've not done so already, please follow me on YouTube, because that's where you get all the VODs. You also get to watch episodes of Shought Thorts, and you know, the more I can expand my audience, my already awesome audience, the better. So if you could follow me there and share it, please, please, please. You know, the only way social media for this sort of promotion works is if people share it, and it's not just me talking to my own little bubble. The bubble needs to expand. So if you've enjoyed that, and Ben, thank you so much, and I didn't respond to you earlier saying that you enjoyed the B-Dave Walters episode. If collectively, if you've been enjoying Shought Thorts, please, please, please push it, please share it, and that expands my audience, and ask people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can find me on the usual socials. I am DC Bradshaw RPG on Twitter, and I'm at dcbradshaw.com on Blue Sky. Let us see who is about for the raiding. Let's have a look. Well, actually, before I started my stream, we raided over in a Monoconomist stream over to Puzzling Old Man. So I think we might raid back to him, which is very I've only watched about 5 minutes of his stream, but they're collectively solving puzzles together, which is just lovely. So I think we will do that, assuming his raid settings allow it. Let me change the raid things. Right, I'm going to put in the following tag, and we go to, there we go, click on that, and we're going to start the raid. That will happen in about 10 seconds or so. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you will join me again on Wednesday for our lunch chat with games. Until then, have a wonderful time, and I will see you soon. Bye.